Okay, y'all, since it's spooky season, I figured that I would tell somewhat of a scary story. Um, so when I was little, like a baby, my grandma, my mom's mom, gave me this Cabbage Patch doll. And it was a boy Cabbage Patch doll, and I would say it's like, like a Chucky sized doll. I referred to him as Chucky because he looked like Chucky. And so I had him when I was a baby, and I want to say maybe when I was 7 or 8, we went to California. And so I shared a room with my brother, and in our closet, like our closet had like those doors that they would open up like that. I don't even know what they're called. But so we had those open doors, and we had like a shelf at the top of our closet. So before we left, I decided to put the doll on top of the shelf, and we were gone for about like a week and a half to 2 weeks. And I don't know, I can't like remember exactly, but I know like the doll would give me like vibes like if it was possessed, so I didn't like it. And so when we came back, I was the first one in the house, and my mom had told me to go put like the suitcases and stuff upstairs. So when you, in my like house at the time, like you would walk up the stairs, and at the very top it'd be like the laundry room, and then you'd have to go, to your right to the rooms. So mine and my brother Junior's room was first on the right side. And when I passed our room, I saw that the closet door was open, like the closet door, that the closet door was open. The light was on from the closet because there was a light in the closet. So I thought that it was like really, really suspicious. Like, that's weird. And so like when my parents' room was right next door to ours. So when I opened the door to my parents' room, like when you would open the door, like say, like you're laying on the bed, right? So say you lay on your left side, and you look to your left. That's like the doorway where the door was. So once I open the door, I see that the Cabbage Patch doll is sitting on my parents' bed, like sitting facing towards the door. So it freaked me out, and I was like, yeah, like screw this, and like I ran out of the house and stuff. And my mom thought I was crazy. Like, she's like, no, like somebody put it there. But I was like, I was the first one in the house. Like, who is gonna put this doll sitting here, facing the door? And so after that, like, we had a basement in that house. So after that, like, I just left the doll in the basement, and it was there for years. I don't know how long. But eventually, not eventually, but like later on, when my parents ended up getting divorced and we ended up moving, my mom was like, oh, are you bringing this doll with you? And I didn't want it, but she's like, your grandma gave it to you, so you need to keep it. So I was like, okay. So in the new house that we had, it had a shed on the outside, and I left it in there. Like, there was this like built-in table shelf thing that was, in the shed, and I had it sitting there. And like we had like all our like tools and like extension cords and all that stuff in there. So one day my mom had asked me to go get something for her from the shed. And the shed would always have like a padlock on it. So you would need a key or something to get into the garage. Or the shed, my bad. And so one day I go, and I can't remember what she had asked me for, but I went, and like I walked in, and then I saw like, the doll was obviously on the shelf. And then I was like, okay, creepy, whatever. And then I ended up going inside, like taking my mom whatever she needed. And then I came back out when I went to put it back in the shed, and the doll wasn't on the shelf anymore. So I was like, okay, like that's weird. And I think we were putting on like Christmas lights or something. I don't know. Like I had to keep going back and forth to the shed. So when I was like, okay, like this fucking doll isn't here anymore, I went back inside, and when I went back to the shed, it still wasn't there. So I'm like, okay, like I like looked around, like, okay, it's not anywhere in here. And I was like, it has to be somewhere like this. There's only one way in the shed and it's locked, you know? So we had like this Chicago Bulls like toy locker thing. It was like maybe like 2 feet tall or something, and we would keep our toys in there. And so I'm like, okay, like this doll is nowhere to be seen, and there's no like, you know, there's not like cabinets and stuff like that in the shed, so it's like you see everything that's in there. And I was like, okay, this doll is nowhere to be found, and this locker is the only thing that it could possibly be in, you know? And so I opened the locker, and I'm like, okay, this is it. Or like, you know, before I opened it, I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, this is it. Like, I'm about to be murdered by this fucking doll. I'm like, you know, I want to say I was like maybe like 10, maybe 11. And I'm like, this is it. Like, my life is over. I'm about to be murdered, you know, by a possessed Cabbage Patch doll. And so like I'm freaking out, and so eventually, you know, I end up opening the locker, and it's not in there. It's just a whole bunch of like little toys and stuff that we had. So I'm like, where can this freaking doll be? And, you know, I laughed, and I'm like telling my mom, like, you know, like this doll isn't here, like, you know, and she's like, no, like it's there, you're just not looking for it, like it's not gonna come out, you know, like Mexican moms, you know, they're like, oh, it's not gonna pop out and say, here I am, you know. And I'm like, no, like I swear, like it's not there. And like I don't think I went back into the shed after that until the next day, because I'm like freaking out. And then you know, I go back into the shed the next day, and it's there sitting on the shelf. And I'm like, okay, like somebody's like messing with me, but like I don't know, like I've never seen it move per se, that I can remember. So I don't know like whatever gave me the vibes thinking. I mean, well, obviously, you know, it moving, like, you know, was like validation to me that it was possessed. But I'm saying, like, I don't know what made me lead to believe that it was possessed, you know what I mean? Aside those, you know, encounters that I remember. But when my mom remarried, you know, and she was with my ex-stepdad, I remember she had told him one day, like, you know, like, go clean out the garage or the shed, you know, go throw away things, you know, that we don't need, or, you know, whatever the cause is, whatever we don't want anymore, you know, to go, you know, throw it away at the dump. Because where we used to live in Elko, they have like they have a dump. It's like a landfill, and, you know, you go and, you know, just like any other place to go throw away like big things, like, you know, like furniture and stuff like that, or just like a big like pile of trash, or, you know, whatever. And so they have it like off this cliff, and you just toss, you know, all your trash and stuff over this cliff, and then they like bury it and stuff like that. And so she had told him, you know, to clean out the shed and stuff. So then, you know, we're doing that one day, and then he had asked me, he was like, oh, you know, like, this doll, like, do you still want it or whatever? And I was like, no, like, you can throw that away, like, I don't want that anymore. And then I told him, or like I had asked him, you know, if I can go with him to the dump, and he was like, yeah. So then we go to the dump, and, you know, I have the doll, and like I sat there and I grabbed it, and I like threw it over the cliff. Like, I remember, like, that's the first thing I grabbed to throw away, and I threw it over the cliff. And like I felt like so like relieved. I was like, okay, I'm finally getting rid of this doll. Like, I'm never gonna see it again. But what's weird to me, like, you know, like years after, like, you know, obviously, like I've told this story like a million times to my friends and stuff. But I remember one day I was telling it to my coworkers, and they were like, oh, like, what the doll look like or whatever. I'm like, well, you know, it's like a boy Cabbage Patch doll. And I kid you not, like I spent like hours, like not even just that day, just like after, I spent hours looking on Google for this doll. And it was like I don't know if it was like late 80s, like early 90s, Cabbage Patch doll. It's a boy. And like I remember he had like blue overalls. They were like probably like blue corduroy overalls. And he had like a light brown sandy kind of hair. And I want to say he had like a striped shirt. But like, I mean, like if I was to see it, you know, like obviously I'd be like, okay, yeah, that's doll, right? So when I've spent hours Googling these dolls, like I've never once come across the exact doll. And like there's similar dolls that I've seen that my grandma has had, or like the ones that she's given my sister. But I've never seen that boy one that she had gave me. And I just think that's weird. And even to this day, like I tell my mom, like, you know, that doll was possessed, and like she still like refuses to believe me. But she just, I don't know, she said like just because I didn't like it, or like I would make up stuff, but I was like, why would I make that up? Like that's stupid. But I believe that doll was haunted or possessed by something. And I wouldn't necessarily think it was bad, but you know, obviously a possessed doll is creepy, or maybe it was like an imaginary friend that I grew out of, I don't know. But I think, like, I feel like, I don't know, like maybe later on in life when I'm on my deathbed or something, that this doll is gonna come back to kill me. And I mean, I'm sure, you know, that's obviously not gonna happen, but I don't know, you know, crazy things. Like I remember as I got older, when I would watch Child's Play, and that scene where I think Andy was like in that psychiatric place or something, and they wanted to keep him overnight, and the mom went back to the apartment, and she's like talking, you know, to Chucky, and she's like talking to him, and obviously he's not responding, and then she turns on the fireplace and she's like, you know, like, talk to me, god damn it, or I'm gonna throw you in the fire. And you know, his ass comes to life. Like, I was like, damn, like, why can I have, like, I realized that, you know, when I was younger, like, threaten this doll to see, you know, if it would have fucking came to life. But I don't know. But that's, you know, one of my creepy experiences that I've had. And I'm sure by the time I edit this and put this out, you know, it's probably going to be, I don't know, probably October's going to be over already, but I would probably like to keep doing like videos like this, even though spooky season is about to be over. But I don't know, I'll just see whatever, you know, comes to mind, or whatever it's easier for me to talk about. But that's just one of my many creepy stories that I have. So thanks.